Good morning. My name is Rev Hewitt. I'm the president of the Hip Hop Caucus, and it is an honor to be here. Definitely very proud of last year's Virginia Power Shift, and it's good to see that it is growing. As many of you know or don't know, I am an activist in the climate movement. Have a good number of accolades at this point in time from all different types of folks, but that means nothing to me because the only thing that matters to me is that we win as a movement. I am and don't come from the background of being in a climate movement just to be that I was right, or being in a climate movement because I want to make sure folks know that we are doing what we need to do. I'm in a climate movement because I recognize that if we don't transition from fossil fuels to clean energy, not only will it affect current generations who are now have asthma and cancer and bronchitis because of the pollution from coal-fired power plants, or from the Appalachian Mountains, from mountaintop removal, or from tar sands. I'm clear how it affects us now, but I'm also very clear that if we don't transition from fossil fuels to clean energy, it'll have a huge impact on the next generation. And so I've been involved with this movement. We've been organizing pretty heavily in this space since Hurricane Katrina. I'm originally from Louisiana. So for me, that was a key moment to get involved in this process for not only me, but our organization. But when we begin to look at this process, we begin to see that if there hadn't have been a Hurricane Katrina, why is Louisiana called Cancer Alley? What is going on with the water runoffs? What is also going on in this space? And so we begin to get involved and engaged. So when we got engaged in the movement right around 2005, we came into it. What was interesting, though, off the bat, was that the environmental movement at that time kind of wanted to segment the Hip Hop Caucus. We didn't really know why. We just kind of put this framework as a movement and said, okay, well, great, welcome to the movement. So you guys can work on environmental justice issues. We're like, yeah, we're gonna do that, but we're not here to work on a segment of the movement, or we're not here to be in a siloed environmental movement where you have the black folks working on one issue and the folks who are indigenous working on another issue and then the white folks working on another issue. No, we are trying to save our planet. So we're not going to be siloed. So wherever we need to be to fight against the fossil fuel industry, that's where we're going to be. So if it's fighting against the Keystone XL pipeline, we're going to be there. We're going to challenge TransCanada. We're going to be on the southern leg. We're going to support those who are sitting in the treetops, who are down there in the southern part of the leg. And if they try to build that, we're going to be in the northern part. We're going to be there with Bolton, Nebraska, and the Lakota Nation. We're going to be there. And on top of that, we're going to be there challenging FERC and the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission. And we're going to challenge them on the fact that they want to ship LNG across. We're going to be there. We're going to be there dealing with Coal Point. We're going to be on the West Coast, making sure they don't have any more coal exports in that process. On top of that, we're going to be there to be able to establish the People's Climate March. We're going to be the key ally in making sure that we can transition, or we're going to be there for the Ford on Climate rally, or we're going to be wherever we need to be in this movement. That's where we're going to be. We're going to fight this process wherever the fight takes place. Because it's not about black or white or brown or yellow or male or female or even Republican or Democrat. It's about humanity and fighting for the next generation. That's what we're going to be. So we started doing that in that process. We started going around. And so what we found out off the back, and as you see by my hat, we're involved with the Divest, and in that process, we instantly saw, as we begin to organize, one of the things that was interesting was that we would go to rallies, and there was not a soundtrack, so to speak, for the movement. In other words, this is the case. You would come here to the Virginia Power Shift, have an amazing conversations. You would have dialogue about what we need to do as a movement. You talk about divestment, talk about Keystone, you talk about the carbon plant pollution rules, that's the carbon plant rule coming forth, the power plant carbon rule that's coming forth. You have all these discussions. But in that process, when you leave here, sometimes it would be just those green folks, or you try to figure out, well, if we're gonna have a true divestment movement, then how do we get the entire campus, for instance, at Mary Washington, or JMU, or George Mason, or Virginia Tech, or wherever we are, or University of Richmond, or wherever school we're at, how are we going to build a movement that's just not the few of us in the room? Because honestly, if it's just the few of us in the room, we won't win. That movement doesn't win. So if we're just here to come about to have a conversation, to have a movement so we can be in a group and a culture, and we can be green and make sure we recycle and make sure we drink water or whatever, then that's cool for a moment. It'll feel good to us, but it won't be the kind of movement that will transform and transition our world to a new place. You see, that kind of movement takes something extra. It takes something where you touch people in their souls and in their heart. It takes culture, and a kind of culture expression that can transition a political experience. You see, that's what we need to do. And so when I would go around for all these years in the movement, I say, wow, I would go to these climate rallies, and to be honest, it'd be a little dry. You know, a little dry. And there wasn't a beat, and there wasn't a culture. For instance, I'll give you an example. We just had a huge and great, we're still having it, Global Divestment Day. Give it up for that. Give it up for Global Divestment Day. And we're having that right now. And in some cases, we're getting some good responses. My dear friend Bill McKibben got a little cartoon figure from the oil companies, and it wasn't too good, and they had a funky looking oil can with a ribbon in her hair, it's crazy stuff, right? But in reality to all of that, Joe, is this, that while they were doing that, so many folks, even though we were around the globe, it still didn't have the impact that we need to have. Example, a 2-year-old threw a tantrum at a fashion show where her father, Kanye West, was exposing his new sneakers. And his mother, trying to control any 2-year-old, was just trying to get her control. If you have any nieces or nephews or kids or whatever, and a 2-year-old, it's hard to control a 2-year-old, right? Y'all don't know, y'all can sit on babysit, I've been around some 2-year-olds, it's tough. But that 2-year-old made CNN, World News, TMZ, that 2-year-old got more media because of the culture and the pop culture. Now, we can debate if it's right or it's wrong, but the reality is that if that 2-year-old had on a T-shirt that had on divestment while she was throwing her tantrum, she would have gotten more notice as a 2-year-old than we did as an entire movement. Now, we can fight that and be like, that ain't right, and keep it so real, we keeping it so wrong. Or we can say this is chess, not checkers, and we're fighting for a movement that will outlast everybody in this room. And that's what we need to have with culture. So Hip Hop Caucus recognized that we need to have culture so we can expand this movement. And so what I did, I found one of the greatest producers of our day. And his name is Malik Youssef. And Malik Youssef actually has been up for, that's a question, how many people here have won a Grammy? Raise your hands. Okay. How many people in this room have won 2 Grammys? Raise your hands. Okay. How many people have won 5 Grammys? Raise your hand. Okay. I've even been nominated for 15 Grammys. Raise your hand. So you get the idea of the genius that I'm talking about. So what happens if we take that kind of genius and put that along with our movement? On top of that, what happens if that individual is also probably one of the most radical environmental activists in the land? What happens if you get somebody who is around Kanye, matter of fact, wearing Kanye's new Yeezys, Adidas, that you can't even get, and you take that kind of access to somebody who produces for Rihanna and Jay-Z and Kanye and has won Grammys and knows how to play music that moves, and you take that person and then incorporate that with our movement, what happens then? What happens then? That we are already winning. But then when that happens, we go from this winning to creating the change that we really want to see. So I asked Malik, can you do a soundtrack? I don't want you to do the conscious soundtrack per se, but I want you to do the soundtrack for the movement. And he said, okay, I can do it. I got a little time between Kanye's album, I'll do that. And he did that. And he put everything involved in that process. What I learned from that, watching him work, is that they don't sleep. They literally go, and this is real, they go 24, 48, 72 hours, nonstop. What I also learned from that is that it's important to have genius outside the academy, because sometimes we think we got it, but we have those. And so Malik went forth and began to create the album called Home as a vehicle for you, and also the vehicle that we could begin to bring in the other side of our movement, like it was before, the Harry Belafontes and the Dick Gregorys and the Eartha Kitts and the Civil Rights Movement, that we can begin to have the Malik Yousefs and the Commons and the Carmens and the Neos and the El Varners to do that. That was created after the People's Climate March. And it was called People's Climate Music as a start and a road to transition, to capture the imagination of the world, so that we're not just talking to ourselves and making ourselves feel good and righteous, but we are really beginning to move our movement to the place where it is not just mainstream, but it is the stream to justice and equality for all. That's where we are. That's our process. And so I want to show you before Malik comes up to begin the dialogue about how, with you, how do we use now this soundtrack that he created, this phenomenal genius, and then put your genius in this room with that genius today. Let's make history in this room today. Put these minds together so that when they look back upon what happened in this room, they can say, what happened at University of Mary Washington? What happened when all those students from all around Virginia and all about came together, and Malik they talked about how we can use this album and what it takes to use this music so that the folks in Oakland or the folks in Miami or in DC and Southeast in Brooklyn, they are bumping to a beat to create change for this transition from fossil fuels to clean energy. And I know we can do it. I know we can do it. Because you know what I've always said, and we just heard Jabril Hazan, who just came up, who was one of the members of the four who sat down at the lunch counter. Brother Jabril said this, he said this is the lunch counter moment, our young people's lunch counter moment right now. He was one of those who sat down at the lunch counter. And this is our lunch counter moment for the 21st century. So let's watch a couple of videos of some artists that they were put together home. As we get that, the next voice you will hear will be the powerful genius Malik Yousef, a part of all of our movements. But our goal is simply this, y'all. When we leave here today, when we leave here today, the same Dr. King, 50 miles up the road, 51 years ago, he sat there and said, fought for equality. He fought for equality with so many. And he said, one day we'll be free at last. Free at last. Thank God Almighty, we'll be free at last. But today where you sit ain't just about equality. It's about existence. If you fail, anybody from drinking from this water fountains or being in hotels, it's about the next generation literally breathing clean air and drinking clean water. So they can then one day say, not just we free at last, but one day if we do what we gotta do, they will say, fossil free at last. Fossil free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are finally fossil free at last. Thank you.
I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, the south side of Chicago, which borderlines a couple suburbs. But not too far from me, a couple miles from me, is the 94, I-94 expressway, going east and west. And we were in the practice of covering our noses as we rode past the place. Every time we talk to somebody about the environment, they say, "Oh yeah, I live around here. I breathe that. I drink that. My kids are yeah." We need to do something about it. But as soon as you give people any information about how bad it is, well, people who are sane, you know, give them any information, they get about the business of fixing it. They change their habits, man. We are collectively men from different parts of America, but have the same experience. Why is that? And it's a negative experience. Why is that? It's systemic. Everybody lives here. Everybody that you know and have ever heard of lived here. Even your biggest prophets and saints, they lived here. This is the only year we have. This music is an attempt to change the way you feel about you, to change your energy, you know. To maybe change what you feel about you, change what you feel about others. But you feel downtrodden, you don't feel your own efficacy, it's hard for you to identify with a person outside of you. Once something permeates your soul, once you resonate with an issue, it becomes part of you, and it changes you, and you won't change back, man. You know, Big Yellow Taxi is saying, farmers, do clean farming. Mercy Me is saying, hey, stop spilling oil and putting pollutants into the waterways. It's saying these things. You don't get to see guys that look like us talking about the environment. You know, it's been kind of sanitized a little bit, and I know this doesn't concern you black kids worry about getting Bentleys and shit. You know what I'm saying? Which is Bentleys is cool, but where you gonna drive it at if you don't got no earth? Where you gonna drive the Bentley, G?
Blood on a beat, sandstorm on the streets. A man's form can be transformed with the heat of the moment. We think our
hip hop is a significant part of getting our president elected. Hip hop can be a very important part to us improving the climate and improving the environment by just speaking on it. And hip hop has always been the voice of change and revolution. They always spoke about things, whether it was NWA saying what they said, Public Enemy saying what they said, KRS-One, fast forward to Tupac, and fast forward to Kanye West and Kendrick Lamar.
Water moves, new world order rules. Through hurricanes, the pain was made audible. Sound waves shot down, graves dug deep. Water dirty like the police that flood street.
Hip hop is like the prominent factor in influencing the world. It's one of the biggest things. I mean, as far as just like truly influencing, because we said like government can do some things, but they can't really, like they create certain laws, but they don't have the influence that hip hop has. Art itself has a direct influence on culture. Music is a very powerful tool that is known to heal, inspire, encourage, empower. So what we're doing with this project is very important because all we have to do is make the music fresh and people can get the message. And that message can seep in like into the brain, into the psyche, into the spirits of people and eventually create that change that we
Blood on the beat, sandstorm on the streets. A man's form can be transformed with the heat of the moment. We think our opponent is overseas, but we messing up Mother Nature's ovaries. It's a
Good afternoon. Is it noon yet? In Australia, though. In Korea. How about Korea? I just missed a call from Korea. Oh, so are you Korean? I just missed a call from Korea a few seconds ago because I was here. Yeah. Oh, really? That would be great. Because I've been having I really have been having some translation issues. Okay, no, for real. I'm super serious. This is perfect. This is perfect. Thank y'all for being here today. I don't want to be too long-winded with it, but I do want to say thank you for each and every one of your energies and spirits, because I believe in this grand designer of the universe, that whatever paths you were on when you came to the planet, it got you here today with us, and I'm grateful. I want to echo something that Reverend Yearwood said, that without being too sentimental and overstating things, but there's enough power in this room right here to change the world forever, like to change the system that we operate on forever. And these are the right people, or else you would not be here. Now, you could choose to opt out, which is fine. People do all the time. But there's enough, even if it's only a couple people, to say, I'm with this for real. I'm going to take this all the way. I've seen this movie before. I remember when we first built Kanye West, people were like, what? This is when 50 Cent was the greatest rapper in the world with the biggest machine behind him. He had Interscope, Jimmy Iovine, Eminem, Dr. Dre, and we came from Chicago with a dude with a backpack and a pink polo on. I'm talking about, this is when 50 Cent was the superhero of the world. Every magazine, every cover, every news, 4 videos on MTV, BT at the same time, mixtapes, albums, tours. It was insane. Then it was like Nelly and Jay-Z, and that was it. Cameron was in there a little bit, and we just like, nah, we're going to do a song called Jesus Walks. And everybody was like, don't do it. Don't do it. And well, do it, but not as a single. We're like, it's a single.
And it was like, in the room at the time was John Stevenson, who later on became John Legend, the star that you know now. Common, who was on a supposedly downswing of his career, a kid named Burundi Partlow, a guy named Ice Gree, who was like a rapper transitioning into management, and me, a dude with some street money that didn't know anything about music for real. Like, didn't know. I just knew Kanye was talented and he was voracious, in what he wanted to consume about the industry. And his mother, Donda West, peace be upon her. And we sat in the hotel room, and Super Bowl 2003. And she said, well, let's see if we can get Jay-Z on the phone. Kanye's like, I've been trying to reach him. I said, I can reach him. So I was like, hey, Jay, man, I'm here with Kanye. What you gonna do, man? He said, what you mean? I said, can we get some help behind this movement? He's like, you come to the Super Bowl? I said, I am now. I came to Super Bowl. It was in Oakland. I met with him. I said, please, can you just open up some avenues for us? That's all. We'll take it from there. Just give us some information about some magazines that might do a write-up. This before, like, the blogosphere and computers were, like, the internet wasn't big. There was no Facebook, no MySpace. And we got on our two ways. We shot the video for super cheap. I think we bought a camera for like $3,000 or something like that. That's when they were like expensive, like $3,700 camera. And we shot through the wire, and we snuck into MTV in New York every night to edit on their big machine that was like big as that wall then, to edit through the wire. So about 8 people helped build the movement that you see as Kanye West right now. And we didn't have any information. We didn't have any help. Nobody in the industry believed in us. They believed in me because of what I did with Puffy and Carl Thomas. I'm saying that to say this, that there's enough power in this room, enough information, enough fire, enough drive. On a Saturday morning, you came out of your rest to come here. Something moved you to do that. What is that spirit inside you that moved you to do that? That is the power that's needed to move this movement. The music doesn't mean anything. Neo and my friend, they're going to shout out and push and fight, but without somebody taking that torch, taking that baton and moving the next leg, that music doesn't mean anything. If a tree falls in the forest, you heard this since you were a kid, and nobody hears it, does a tree fall in the forest? That's a real question. We're talking about metaphysically. If we can't get together and use our own inertia to move this thing forward, then the movement won't work. We have to change the perception of what green is and what being environmentally conscious is. I do this at home for real. Like, this is what I do, but that's not enough, right? For me and my kids to compost and recycle and reduce, that's not enough. There's corporations that buy this much of this much available advertising. The reason why car commercials are everywhere is because they're subsidized by the fossil fuel industry. They give Mercedes this much money for marketing. They give Audi this much money. This is what it is. All of the monuments and all these museums and stuff were made by the petroleum industries to get people to spend gas money. On weekends, you would usually be at home or in the bed sleep or hanging out in your front yard. They say, no, get your kids in the car and drive here. Drive Route 66. This is not a mistake. These people are very smart. They have psychologists and psychiatrists and actuary scientists and anthropologists and everybody on their team working against your better good, which is clean air and fresh water. We're not destroying the earth. That's false. Earth, she got a couple layers of bedrock and shit like that. She gonna be okay. The little parts that you need won't exist anymore. The last time we had a climate change, the species changed. They didn't have machines. They didn't have microphones and internet to control it. We have those things. We have to use those things. This album was designed to put certain frequencies inside of it. The artists were chosen because they have a certain kind of voice, a certain texture that can move things. When Common, who's having the biggest year of his career because of Selma and being nominated for an Oscar, I'm super duper proud. But I knew how important it was to get him on this album, being an icon in the entertainment world and being respected by everybody bar none. I knew that if we could get Neo, who was going to have a huge career, a huge year like he's having, we could get people to understand that the Michael Jackson song, Earth Song, was not just about some kooky dude that lived in a big mansion with giraffes and shit. That's how the media painted Michael Jackson. The most philanthropic entertainer ever from a financial standpoint. The most philanthropic entertainer ever. And they marginalized him to some, he had kids sleeping at his house. And he got found not guilty. They never said, oh, well. They just say, oh, well, okay. And next, check out these dancing puppies. Of course. It's not their job to make us know that you should do good. It's not their job. Their job is for you to focus on distraction, like Kanye and Kim was just saying. Racism is a distraction. It keeps us from being a two-planet species. It's a distraction. It keeps us from saying, okay, let's get this world, let's get the next world, let's colonize the universe. Instead of running into small islands saying, give us all your stuff. We're going to dig in your earth and take everything. They give you these distractions, man. They're not going. Do you think the news wants to tell you what's really going on? If the news was really reporting atrocities and disasters, they would be at every oil field in the world, all day, 24-hour coverage. They would be in the hospitals talking about the increase in asthma, the increase in breast cancer from the chemicals in fracking. That's what they be talking about. But they're not. So we have to learn and then spread information. And the music from home, the reason why it's called Home, Heal Our Mother Earth. Heal our Mother Earth. It sounds like very esoteric, but it's very vital. Because you've seen wars over gold. We've seen the cowboy Indian movies. Oh, they're fighting over gold and mining. You've seen the war over oil that's happening right now in our lifetime. You do not want to see the war over water. You don't want to see that one. You don't want to see your neighbor having to kill you so that kids can have a cool drink of water, a clean drink of water, not even cool. That's where it's headed to. Population, they're not worried about population control. They're just going to control the water. They're going to pollute all of it and then have this much that's potable. And this is not like theory. There's 87 books written on this by very smart people. The rich people in the world are buying waterways. A book called Blue Gold. Check it out. It's like a 10-year-old book, man. I can see that you guys are very intelligent. I looked at all these manifestations of thought here on this board, and it's very impressive, to be honest, that you're thinking like this now. It's very important because the majority of the world is watching Dancing with the Stars. I have nothing against it. It's fine. That's fine. But that's not what's going to change us. That's not what's going to save us from ourselves. So when we took the songs that we chose for Home, it wasn't by accident that we chose Big Yellow Taxi. It wasn't by accident we chose Mercy, Mercy Me. It's not by accident that we chose Which Side Are You On, Boy. These weren't accidental choices. Earth Song by Michael Jackson, that was not accidental. What if God was one of us? It's not accidental. That's a real question. How can you worship a God that's in the clouds, well, I guess we know it's it's outer space. Well, that too, we know. Well, if God don't live in the clouds, don't live in outer space, where would be an appropriate habitat for a supreme, omnipresent being? Inside of the creations, inside of you. And if God is inside of you, then I am disallowed to treat you like anything but a God. And how would you serve God? How would you serve God? How would you judge God? So these songs have historical meaning, because most of these songs are like from the 60s. People don't make as many meaningful songs. But you know why they made those songs? Because the climate, not just the climate of the air, but the emotional climate was so strong toward liberty and equality that the music had to come out like that. You can't grow oranges in the Arctic. You just can't, because the climate is not fitting. So when the climate is fitting, amazing things grow from it. James Brown said, "I'm black and I'm proud," because that's what everybody was saying. That not only is it okay to be black, that you can be proud of who you are. That was a new concept for people who were slaves and marginalized and downtrodden, to be like, I'm proud of who I am, regardless of how I'm treated and depicted. I'm proud. When Aretha Franklin said R-E-S-P-E-C-T, this was a time when people were like, women, they're good for a couple things, I think, maybe. I think we can have, should they be here? Yeah, okay. These are artists. An artist that has never seen the mountains will not paint one. An artist who's never seen the ocean will not depict one in his drawings. It won't happen. Art of all sorts. Culinary art. If you've traveled before, you understand the cuisine is different based on the environment. So Costa Rican cuisine is different than Mexican cuisine, even though I know, the news lumps them all together. And, Mexicans. Sicilian cuisine is different than Italian cuisine, very close. But Sicily is closer to the water. So these are things that exist. Those are arts. Culinarianism is an art. Music is an art. Fine art. Fashion. So wouldn't it stand to reason that if we make these moves, when we make these moves, when we start to really say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I'm doing, and this is the planet that we all share. I don't care what you wear, what you believe in, what flag you fly over your house, who you choose to sleep with, doesn't even matter. Because we all share this one rock, this speck of dust in the grand scheme of things that's flying through space. And it's the only place we got for ourselves to live. So that we have to break all those other things down. And I want the music to help be a lubricant for that. I want the music to permeate that invisible thing called spirit, because Q-Tip was saying the other day, music is invisible. CDs are visible. Artwork is visible, but music is a ghost. It seeps through your walls. It lives inside your brain. It lives inside you. Sometimes it goes from your brain to your heart. We want to make the music that touches your heart. We want Home, Heal Our Mother Earth to become a mantra. We want people's climate music to become a mantra. We want you to embody it. We want you to love it. We want you to add to it. We want to know what other songs are near and dear to you, and can we get a celebrity? Can we get Ellen DeGeneres to do a spoken word piece? What are you feeling that'll help you with this movement? I'm gonna say this one, and then I'm gonna go. In the ancient language of our forefathers, hip hop, hip hop. Thank you.
Malik, don't go too far, Malik. So this is the Q&A time. So if you have some Q&A for, give it up one more time for Malik Youssef, y'all. Give it up one more time. So Malik, take this mic. And then I'm just going to give you a mic that doesn't work. 1, 2. So anybody have a question?
All right. Well, I want to thank you guys both for coming. I've been involved in this stuff for a little while, and I've been thinking about it a lot. But still, your words managed to inspire me and awake something. So thank you for that. The question I want to ask, well, what the Rev said, he said that a movement can't really perpetuate, it can't really last without culture. And I really liked that. I think the words you said were, good things can't grow without the proper climate. So I'm not a creative type. I don't have a creative bone in my body. But I think that's true. I think that you do need the culture, you do need the music to really make the movement last and to really be salient in our society. So what can someone like me, who's not creative, who doesn't have a major Twitter following, or who can't really reach a ton of people in a second, how can I propagate and perpetuate your music and your culture to make it heard by more people and to bring it into the mainstream? I mean, obviously you are in the mainstream, but how can I bring the climate music into the mainstream? What can I do to help you with that?
Well, thank you for asking that question. That's what I've been pondering that long and hard. What can people that consider themselves somewhat pedestrian really do to affect this movement to really change? And I asked myself a real question, and I got an answer. That's called crazy to most people, but everybody talks to themselves, and I think that we just be like, oh, if you admit it, then you're crazy. You just gotta be quiet. I ain't really talking about that. How many points does it take to win a soccer match? How about a hockey match? Same. Football, baseball, basketball, all the same? Water polo. 1 point. 1. It doesn't mean 100 to 101. It just means by 1. If you played the whole game and it was 0-0, and at the last second you scored 1 point. So that was like my this week thought. Because Rev is right, at the fashion show, everybody was there, Anna Winters came, who I love Anna Winters, she's really a sweet person. But yeah, Nori, who is 2 years old, who been crying every 30 seconds, had a Holy Ghost moment during the fashion show and stressed out. You know how kids stressed out. Y'all been 2 years old before, some of y'all. And you stressed out and said, she did that. And everybody's like, oh, da, 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 da. I was like, wow. Kanye can really like score 100 points with one shot. Most of us can't score 100 points with one shot. Our impact is not that, but we still have the power to impact. And all we need to do is one thing. One. It reminded me of this story, and this is directly to you. What's your name, brother? Jacob. There was a little girl, Ivory Coast, and as the tides rise and fall, she would go around every day and take starfish and throw them back into the water. And it became something that she did religiously. And the old fisherman would see her do it, and so one day just pulled aside, baby. You know that they're gonna, when the tide falls and rises again, the same thing's gonna happen. You have to come back and do it again tomorrow. She said, he said, so it really, in the grand scheme of things, don't really matter. She said, yeah. And she picked up a starfish and threw it back in. She said, it matters for this one today. And that's the power that we have to even do a small part. So if you got one person on Twitter and you're brave enough to tell them, hey, I'm an environmentalist, which might sound weird to some people, they think, oh, I'm tree hugger, granola crunchy, sitting in the dirt, all the negatives and all of the quirky denormalization that takes place for this movement, which is the most normal thing for you to do is save yourself. That is the most normal thing for any human being. So if you have one person on Twitter, and let's take the path of least resistance, the person that believes in you the most, and give them information. Don't force feed them. Present it. Have conversation about it. Put it in your feed. And that person does it, and that person does it, and that person does it, and that person does it. That creates that chain reaction. When I first heard Happy in Paris, when Pharrell brought it by Kanye's apartment, I was like, this is going to be the biggest hip-hop song of all time. Everybody else was like, it's pretty soft. Pretty fucking soft. I was like, but it's beautiful, right? Everybody's like, yeah, but that's soft. Like, we're in Paris, it's wintertime, it's freezing. I just got caught in a snowstorm, which made me have an aversion to Paris for like the next 7 months or something. But I was like, it's beautiful. And it means a lot. And I was wrong. It wasn't the biggest hip hop song of all time. It's currently the biggest song ever. Most downloaded, most covered song, most performed song in the history of music. He just won another Grammy for this song that's been out 2 years. This is 2015. That song came out in 2013. So with your power to reach and create that chain, information, man. You'd be so surprised how many people don't have the information that you have purview to right here. You're blessed to be in a situation. You're blessed to be able to be here with a whole bunch of incredible thinkers. That's the creative part. Thinking that's creation. How many things exist without thought? Zero. The lights, the wood, the seat, the ink on the number 9, the way number 9 is designed, your genes inside you. One of your parents saw the other one and had a thought. It was like, let me share this thought. And then here you are, all grown and shit in college, off of a thought. So don't underestimate that. Like, don't let people think that you think that creative is going out and making something, or Michelangelo, I'm here. No, that's part of creative process. But the thought, As long as you can share that information, just with anybody that'll listen. Anybody, present it. The presentation is everything, as you know. Present it in a way that's not interrupting Honey Boo Boo at that moment, you know? Just like, okay, here. Oh, Honey Boo Boo was great, well, check this out. This is what I found out. And this is what you can do, and you can join me in this, you know? Somebody? Yes, sir. That's a dope shirt,
Hi.
man. I like that shirt.
Oh, thank you. It's very echoey.
Yeah.
So I want to thank you for coming also. The Home album looks awesome. The People's Climate music, I love the idea. And Reverend Yearwood also, I saw you first at Keystone XL rally. I saw you last Virginia Power Shift, and thank you for coming back. Kanye, I don't want to insult your I'm worried. You said he could score 100 points at the same time. I'm worried that he's going to get quantitative instead of qualitative. And maybe it's what the media has shown me about Kanye. I've never met him. I've never seen him live. He seems not nice. What do you think about that?
I agree. And I don't think Kanye is a nice person. I don't think that's like his job is to be nice. I don't think he's put on the planet to be nice. I think that Kanye has shifted culture in a way that we haven't seen from an artist before. He's avant-garde. He has captured the minds of people who gave a flying fuck about some black kids from the south side of Chicago. Kanye is kind. No, he's not nice. And he speaks his mind, and the media is going to take every possible sound bite to make him feel different than you, than what you would do. But there's parts in your life that you've been like Kanye. You're like, no, I'm not going to take this. But there's no camera. If the camera was there every time you did that and could put you on TV for the last 10 years, people would be like, oh my God, this dude. But like, and I'm just telling the truth. We were in the studio with Puff and Kanye last week, and he was like, they're trying to distract you. He's like, global warming is real. Like, this is real. This was unprompted by me. I mean, he knows I'm an environmentalist, but he doesn't care like what my issue is when he's on his thing, when he's like, yo, this is what's happening. He's like, yo, my daughter has to live here. It's real. And of course they're gonna make the person who doesn't go along and play nice with others look absolutely insane. That's their job, because he does not fit their mold. They're like, why won't you just only talk about Mercedes-Benz? Give Mercedes-Benz more free publicity. Please mention a Bugatti in your song, and we'll let you be nice like 2 Chainz. Let you be fun and entertaining. We'll allow you. We'll depict you as this. Nobody has a problem with 2 Chainz. All he wants for his birthday is a big booty hoe. He don't. Kanye's like, corporations, you will respect me as a human. You will not use my face when you feel like it and my music in any movie that you want to. You will not do that. And they're like, catch him right now. Look at that grimace. Put it on there. Ah, yes. Don't you hate this guy? Don't you hate this person that stands up for himself as a human? That's what they do. And I don't need to defend Kanye West, because he would not want me to defend him. He said I could take up for myself. Now when he's coming up and it was the streets, I had to defend him because people wanted to, they looked at him as crazy. We can beat him up, take his jewelry. And I'm from that place where, I grew up a real live gangster, not for play. Not no pretend at all. I'm from that real place. Like movies about gangsterism, I lived it. I know the real Italian mafia. I know the real Russian mafia. I know the people inside of it. Tony Soprano was not like a disjointed experience for me. It was real life. I know those people. I know that group of people in Jersey. I've been on their block. I've parked in their driveway. So Kanye is not a person that's gonna apologize about a lot of stuff. He's gonna say what he feels at that moment. He's gonna be like your little brother. You be like, why can't you just shut up? No, I can't. He can't. His mom and daddy raised him to not shut up. And I understand your concerns because we are fighting a media behemoth that takes our movement and and tries to destroy it. And it says, well, why are black kids with no money in ghettos worrying about the environment? Well, because that's where the factories are. That's why. So yeah, point taken about that. And it's gonna take a lot to change the media precept. But if Kanye West has on a shirt that's, like he said, Nori had a shirt that said divest, we'd be like, that's my cause. I might not agree with him on all the stuff about Nike and Adidas and all that, but I do agree with that. And right here, where you wrote today, intersectionality was incredible. I love that. The practice of advocating and organizing at the intersections between forms of systems of oppression, domination, and discrimination. I think that's important because we live in a world where we've been taught, well, humans, how we made this world, how we advanced and advanced technology, like coming together. Now we live in a world where we're saying push each other apart. Let's find the differences. Why I'm in my own little group, why I have my own little flag, why I identify it this way and not as the whole. And that's important to be able to self-identify. But also, it's super important to be able to come back together, too. So I think that Kanye being part of the movement, yes. Oh, come on, please. I like that shirt.
Belovedshirts.com if you want to get stuff like this. It is very nice, yeah. Quick update about lunch. There is some discrepancies with the pizza. So now we have to cut it into two, I guess like shifts for lunch. The people from this building will be going over to get lunch at 12:30, while the people from the other building will be doing it at 12:15. So I think they're going until 12:30, so that's fine. But yeah, it's in Seco Bell Dining Center and Seco Beck, and you can follow probably these or any other Mary Wash students at 12:30 to get over there. Yeah, so I'm gonna hand it back. I feel like I just stole the mic from someone, but thank you.
Thank you, Kanye. Yes, ma'am.
One more question.
Yes, please.
My name is Carolina, and thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
Your speech was so moving. You mentioned something in your previous comment about 2 Chainz's song, and that kind of led me to this. I guess it kind of worries me about how mainstream artists today are so consumed with making music about violence and materialism, just sexism, all of the above. So my question for you is, how do you plan to use your role as a producer and a person in a position of power and a person able to influence the masses to try and shift that artist from perpetuating those distractions, in this industry and into something more influential?
Thank you for that question. Yeah. Oh, please, yeah. Reverend Yearwood, y'all, one more time.
I was going to give you the first part of that question. I want Malik to hop in here because this is Hip Hop Caucus. This is all we do, work with artists. So that's an important question, and I'll answer it quickly, 2 parts. First part is that there has to be a way for us to allow people to evolve. Nobody in this room is where they are now and where they are now even 2 or 3 years ago. we have all evolved to this point. Even our viewpoints about humanity, about race, everything evolves. One thing that I've noticed in our movement sometimes, we don't allow for artists to evolve. In other words, we don't allow for the Cassius Clays to become Muhammad Ali's. We don't allow for the Malcolm Littles to become Malcolm X. So we don't allow that. So we take them where they are at Cassius Clay or at Malcolm Little and keep them there. At the same time, so I even go further. So Chief Keef or Bobby Shmurda or what Young Thug, whoever they are now, we would say, well, we can't work with them because they're not on the same plane. The problem with that is this, though, is that clearly when we come to them with that mentality, in this movement, which is really a war, we need allies. And so there's a genius that they have that we don't have. Because clearly having 2.3 million Twitter followers or do something, they know something that we can't do. So where do we mesh in that process? And even right here, Malik, I wanted to say this, why this is a blessing. Well, when me and Malik met a while ago, I've been doing Hip Hop Caucus, we met when I used to work for Russell Simmons. I was the beginning Hip Hop Summit, then morphed into Hip Hop Caucus. And we met back then. What's important in that process is that as these artists now, how you see Malik now is because of one word and one word only. And that word from me to him is that there's love. That there isn't this kind of thing, and our movement needs to do a much better job at loving one another and loving other people in that process. And we don't do that as well as we should. We really come in the process and we're missing that love component. And I'm telling you, artists who feel loved in the movement, how they are, you'll see them grow. So I just wanted to say that is from my standpoint for where it is. And I see that a lot. I see that also a lot, not even with artists, but there are people on our campuses and around that we don't have that ability to let them come in, how they can come into the movement. I'll say this, and I'm gonna speak later on this evening about more specific things around this, the movement side. But for me, one of the things there is that one of the things that we do in our movement, this in all of our progressive movements, is that we sometimes create, it's more important. In other words, folks will not buy a Chevy Tahoe that's a hybrid because people see you driving around a truck. That doesn't go along with the culture that we are creating, right? And sometimes you can have pathological integrity in which we keep it so real that literally we're blocking others out. So for me, with artists, what we have done even now is that Malik is at the top of the pier. He's all in, as you heard, you could tell. There's some artists on this process, maybe Elvon, not calling her Elvona, but Elvona might be coming in. But where she is now, they're coming in. And we need that. We need that only for artists, but we need it for our people. And we have to open our doors to more people in our movement. If not, we're gonna be talking to ourselves.
Thank you, Rev. Yeah, I'm in total concurrence with what Reverend Yearwood is saying. And again, I think it's the climate that we create as activists. 'Cause artists, their job is to create the art, of their choice. And I think, and see the things that's around them and speak on those things. I mean, Volkswagen made a very expensive car called a Bugatti. And people talk about it because it's echelonic, it's opulent, it's a prestige item. I believe that we can make art a prestige item again. I mean, a Van Gogh is definitely very valuable. A Picasso, a Monet, those things are valuable. But I've been to Jay-Z house, he got that shit in his house. For real. Like, he really has it in his house because they say it's a value to it. With like, from a real live standpoint, like, we like songs about violence and sex and drugs and partying and freedom, because the human creature, you know, from biochemical standpoint, these are things that we need to be able to survive on the planet Earth. Now, we don't need so much sex anymore. We don't need so much violence anymore. But it was a time when a bear was a really tough thing, and if you weren't able to commit the act of violence, you weren't gonna make it past the bear trap or the bear area. So that's a whole other thing. But I think that if we just keep pushing the concept and giving people alternative things to look at, to create as a palette, to create their art, I think we'll be doing a good job. And we have to bring up the artists that's making the music that we like. We have to do some work to find them, because the media is not gonna be like, and here's the little kids talking about saving the planet. Listen to them on MTV and Revolt today. Won't you? My favorite station is Fox News, because it's a comedy show for me. But my son that's here is 12, and I can't now have that playing in my house because he can't differentiate between how real Spider-Man is. He's at the age like, could that be a Spider-Man? He's still at that age, like where these things are possible for him. So they say, hey, guess what? This Barack Obama, half Nazi scientist, Muslim chiropractor that kills kittens. We'll find out when we come back. It's great for me. I can decompress with that, but my son is like, is he really? So they're not gonna give us the artists that we love and that help us. They're not gonna give those artists to us. We gotta go find them. We gotta dig for them. We gotta go on the internet. We gotta ask friends. We gotta have a network, because we got, obviously everybody on home is an artist that wants to talk about this issue. These might be one songs now. It might start off with one song, but it could grow into an entire movement, you know? So yeah, as a producer, I just want to keep making music with the highest frequency and getting as many people sensitized to this movement as possible. I think that's so. As my responsibility, if you ask me what my responsibility is, I think that's my responsibility, is just keep doing this. But I mean, you know, sex is something I like, and I like to talk about it, and I like hearing about it sometimes as well. You know, but this is also a part of life too, you know, clean air and clean water. So, yes, thank you for your question, babe. Uh-oh. You done?
Hold on. Well, I think so. Our time is up. But I want to make sure this is actually an action item at the end of this process. Because one of the other realities is this. Malik, as you know, give it up for Malik Yusuf, y'all. This is amazing. Give it one time for Malik Yusuf, y'all. So there's something called numbers. And no, this is real important. And so we put out home, and they're going to look to see how much of our movement is now downloading home. It actually could be one of the more radical things in our movement, to spread that knowledge. Like, that could be one of the most radical, going to your campus, divest, yes, no KXL, yes, getting all the students to start downloading home. Because what they'll do is that then they'll be like, oh, there's actually a market for climate music. And they'll start to let other artists who want to be a part of this movement, but their managers won't let them. And so when they see that you are interested in this process, and they start seeing Virginia going crazy downloading home, at iTunes/home, you all the flyers. But you make that movement, then they're gonna call up Malik, and also give it up. Liz Hash, that runs the Hip Hop Caucus out in LA. Right, raise your hand, Liz. And TC Muhammad there, Hip Hop Caucus. So that's the action item I wanna leave you with, is that let's blow this up. These artists, Comet, Neo, El Ronner, I mean, come on. Malik Yusuf. They did their part. Let's do ours. Let's make this crazy. Thank you so much. And I guess we're gonna have to. They tell me we got the time, but we can come up front and have some more competitions up front to the side. But I said our time. Y'all got to go get pizza and lunch. All right, y'all. Thank y'all so much.